All right, everybody, come on in, come on in. Thank you all so much for being here. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of the Wives Club. The Wives Club was started in 2021 when I booked a session with the late, great Kevin Samuels. Miss him every day. Yes, I was one of the ones who wanted to talk to him. But it wasn't for me. I really wanted to help and give back. I always used to feel convicted whenever he would say, "Where are the older women to teach the young?" So if you don't know me, I'm Maggie. I make food and femininity content, but once a month when the Kevin Samuels channel posts a new montage, I like to come here and continue what we started in the Patreon and give you my reaction from a woman's perspective, an older woman. I'll be 50 at the end of this year. And if it's helpful, especially for those women who still want traditional marriage, who believe in prioritizing family, then hopefully my thoughts will be helpful. So I have my notes over here. If you see me going through my notes, come on in, everybody. And I am going to react to this one. It's called Yes, Godfather, We Deserve High Value Men. We deserve. Let me see what the definition of the word deserve is. I always find that very interesting. To do something or have something show qualities worthy of reward or punishment. And my man, excuse me, Mr. President, always harps on the word deserve. Like, we don't deserve anything. Nobody deserves anything. That woman that's born into poverty, why doesn't she deserve what you have? So we'll think about our words. We'll choose our words carefully. All right. Hello, Quasia. Thank you so much for being here. All right. So let's go into it, everybody. And if you have some thoughts, I'd love to bring you all into the conversation. And this video is linked in the description. Even though Kevin is no longer with us, I believe his message still lives on. All right. So, high value men. I do believe all men have value. However, you all know, if you watched Kevin, he said that there was a certain category of men that were his audience, if you will, high value, whether they were in the corporate space or the trade space, men that he had his own criteria. But, having a 1% man, or, when you have access to the men that can change your life, I think, all men are great, but there are a certain caliber of men that, unfortunately for the other men, most women want a select few men. All right. We got the International Quiet Storm in the house. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. All right. So first things first, ladies, he said that these men have options. And, we've talked about this, and sometimes women want to, run off into the night with their hair on fire. But it's true. I just finished a coaching session, and ladies, we have to understand, if you want marriage or relationship, we do not choose when that happens. I think a lot of modern women think, okay, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and now I'm ready, come make it happen. But there's no woman that makes herself a Mrs., right? So that means that if you have the attention of a man that you admire and respect, and he's vetting you, you got to be ready when he's ready. That's just the God's honest truth. And unfortunately, so many women don't take it seriously when it's presented to them, and then that ship has sailed. So these are the type of men that have a lot of options, because it takes them a lot of time and a lot of work to become that, high value man, if you will. And so they have the pick of the litter. I would advise, ladies, don't go chasing after a high value man. I just wouldn't. They choose us. All right. You have to be what they're looking for consistently, and then they offer you an opportunity to be a part of their life. You can put yourself in, certain environments, but if it's not really who you are, believe me, it will show. All right. Gillis is here. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. Okay. Now, in this video, Kevin talked about certain career choices for women that can exclude you precisely from the type of men that you may want. So buckle up, ladies. You may get your feelings hurt. We may get our feelings hurt. But I think it's important to understand the why behind the what. All right. So the first one that he mentioned was psychologists and attorneys. Now, you all know I work in tech. Um, but what he was saying is that psychologists and attorneys, whether it's intentional or not, the way that you need to think for the type of job that you have does not help you in relationship. So for our psychologists, no man wants to be diagnosed. No man wants to go out there and work, do that backbreaking job or that, very stressful job and come home to someone who's going to tell him he's got some type of attachment disorder or he doesn't communicate well or all of this psychobabble. Men don't like it. It's just what it is, ladies. So if you want to be taken seriously, your career choices could hurt you. So that's our psychologist. Shout out to you all. All right. And then the attorneys. Oh, we got next level here. We got to make sure you got your wrench. I'll make sure it gets put back. Thank you so much for being here. Um, Next career choice is attorneys. And I have seen this. And unfortunately, ladies, there are some people, and especially if you're a woman, if you like to debate, if you like to just say the opposite, if you get a thrill, if you get a rise out of being that dissenting opinion, that's fine, maybe at a cocktail party. But men don't want to deal with that. Men don't want to come home to that. So, again, if you have the ability to turn it on for work and turn it off in your relationship, maybe. But what I've seen oftentimes is we don't know when to turn it off. So that is why, ladies, it's no accident that oftentimes men choose to marry women that are already in the type of work that helps them stay feminine and a support system, because that's what they want. If you think you're going to go toe to toe with a man, he may have fun with you, but he'll leave you right there. All right. So continuing on, the next career choices that Kevin mentioned, cops or military. And you all know we just sent our oldest off to the Marines. He is in Paris Island in boot camp right now. But it's true, ladies. And I'm sorry, but when I see female police officers and security guards and military, there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, you have a job to do, but it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. Like I struggle a little bit, like I'm like one of these things doesn't belong. And men don't want to have to do extra work to put us into a warm and welcoming space. So again, if you work in that type of field, just know that you're coming in with a strike, if you will. So you're going to have to really overperform in the areas that are of value to the men that you want. So I remember we have a close family friend. I host an Airbnb and he stayed with us. He's actually a detective now, but he was going through the police academy, and I got to see him go through all of his training and everything that went along with that. And when he told me he had a lady that he was entertaining, and just, I don't know, I just asked him, I was like, oh, is she also a police officer? And he was like, absolutely not. And I was surprised because I met, my ex-husband at work. I met my man at school. We grew up together. And I was just thinking, oh, okay, duly noted. But even the police officer didn't want his woman to be a police officer. So do with that what you will, ladies. Just know that cops and military are one of those career choices that could be off-putting, especially if you want a high-value man. What does Next Level say? He says, ladies, we want peace. We've literally been fighting in the office, on the construction site, in the boardroom, in the drive-through, at the gas pump. We want consolation and quiet of mind. So you hear it from the men, ladies. Ask yourself, does this paragraph describe you? Or do you come through kicking down doors, flipping tables, kicking tail and taking names and letting everybody know that they're going to pay attention to you right now? And you can ask yourself which one would be more appealing to the type of man that you want. All right, moving on. The next one that he mentioned, actresses and singers. And you all know I love the arts, and I think it's a wonderful pastime. But again, the reason why high value men may avoid actresses, and singers, creatives, if you will. There's nothing wrong with having a skill set. I love to sing privately, but if you think about these type of men, they live a life of structure, and it has taken them a lot of structure and discipline to arrive at the point where they are in life. And so to bring in a free flowing bohemian, Kevin's words, bohemian spirit that's, going to auditions and in and out of different characters and changing, that is not the type of consistency that men want in their women. So again, if you're going to pursue your music and acting career, that's fine. It may cost you in the relationship with the type of man that you may want. Good evening, Erin Laura. Thank you so much for being here. All right, next up. Hopefully y'all are okay. Kevin said that high value men will often avoid nail techs, hairstylists, and massage therapists. Well, ladies, it's true. I don't want to be crude and say exactly what Kevin said, but these type of women, how can I put it delicately, may be experienced in other creative ways that are good in the moment, but to be taken seriously for long term and to be taken seriously for marriage, it's going to be more difficult. Is it impossible? No. But again, when we look at the type of career choices that we have made, your schedule, the clientele that you're around, the environments that you find yourself in, the type of people that you work with, is all of that behooving you to be this man's wife, if that's what you want. If you want to do your own thing, if you want to be a boss babe, none of this applies to you. All right. So unfortunately, Kevin said, a lot of these women will find themselves single. He even said, I think for the military and some of the other trades are known for having a high body count, because they've been passed around and it's just understood. And that makes me very sad. But here's what I would offer, ladies. If you do find yourself in one of these careers, like I said, you're going to have to overperform. When we come into a relationship, I always like to use myself as an example. Fitness is really important, and that's one of the things that I struggle with. However, you have to, one, acknowledge it and know, okay, I'm not at my fittest. So what am I good at? And I really try to hit it out of the park. I try to be as agreeable as I can be, as feminine as I can be, as cooperative as I can be, as supportive as I can be. What you can't do is just say, well, this is just me, and somebody's going to have to put up with it, because they do not, and they will not. All right. So again, if you find yourself psychology, attorneys, cops, military, actress, singers, nail techs, hairstylists, and massage therapists, just know that what you do every day for work is probably not useful to the man that you want. So if you want a high value man, or if you have one that's vetting you, you're going to have to really dial all of that back and really fall in line with his program, because he will not change. All right. Let's move on. So the next part of the conversation, Kevin mentioned that the 8s, 9s, and 10s get married early. And here's the thing, I've always said that I'm happily average, and I mean that. But Kevin is saying that, he had this rating system, and you all remember it, but the women that are on a scale of 10, 8s, 9s, and 10s, they're not just walking around here single and happy. Usually, especially if they want relationship, they get taken out of the dating pool very early, and you just not see them because they're off living their life. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And then what happens is, when certain women are out of the pool, the rest of us, kind of pop up, and we start thinking, oh, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. Just remember that there's a whole society of people that are out here. We just don't see them. We just don't have access to them. Maybe they're even watching, but they are not going to compromise the peace that they have at home, the life that they've built, the happy home and husbands that they have, to figure out why we can't get out of our own way. All right. So continuing on, Kevin continued to talk about some of the things that can disqualify us from high value men if that's what you want. He talked about these advanced degrees. And, I've shared with you all thinking that my career and my accomplishments were more important, cost me my marriage. I do have advanced degrees. Mr. President does not. But believe me, none of that matters. What I do for work, the degrees that I have help in the workspace, but that doesn't make me Maggie. That doesn't make me a good woman. That doesn't make me a good mother, that pays the bills. And so we have to compartmentalize and put those things in the box where they belong and leave them there. If you find yourself leading with your accomplishments, I was around somebody, I was traveling, and somebody addressed her by her first name, and she said, "You need to call me Dr. So and so." I was just like, oh, for the love of God, please, nobody cares. But ladies, if you have found yourself really in love with the letters behind your name, that's great for you. But I would say 10 times out of 10, men are thinking, that doesn't help me with anything. And the reason why, ladies, is because when we get sick of that job and sick of those deadlines and sick of those responsibilities, we're going to be looking at him to sit us down somewhere and rescue us. And men already know that. That's why they're not impressed. So just keep that in mind so you don't get too inflated and require other people to humble you. Life will humble all of us. All right, so he talked more about attractive women in fatigues. So here's the thing, again, ladies, if you are an officer of the law, or you're in the military, or you have some type of uniform for work that is masculine, Kevin was telling the story about, he doesn't want to be seen with a woman dressing like that, especially if she's attractive. Here's the thing, ladies, masculine men want what they are not. So I know sometimes the trends can become kind of blurred lines and the clothes are unisex and you're wearing, whatever a boy would wear. That's not what men want to look at. I remember, big executive, and I got into a habit where I was dressing, just very corporate, almost a little bit preppy, like with the sweater vest and the argyle. And, I thought it was cute. Mr. President flat out told me, I don't like any of that. Take the loafers off. I don't like that. No, looks like a dude. And I was like, oh my gosh, I thought it was cute in my little collared shirt. And this is just in my relationship, but I share hopefully to be helpful. Men do want us to kind of be a little bit of their muse. So he likes more dresses, more flowy things, more flowery things. Now, if you don't like that, that's fine. If you're like, I'm going to wear what I want to wear, I'm going to wear my hair how I want to wear, nobody's going to tell me what to do. Absolutely, go be great. However, men are attracted to femininity. It's just primal in us. So you can do things to help yourselves, ladies, and you can do things to hurt yourself as well. Next level says the Mrs. in front of your name is more important than the PhD at the end of it. Ooh, I love that. I absolutely love that. So again, ladies, if relationship is important to you, keep the main thing the main thing. And I'm not telling you that you got to get rid of your hopes and your dreams and your passion projects. We have all of that, but keep it in its proper place and at its proper time. I've coached a couple women and I told them, you can't boil the ocean. You can't do it all at the same time. Our oldest is now in the Marines, and we got another one who's high school senior. But there was a time when I was ripping and running and chaperoning field trips and doing birthday parties and sleepovers. I didn't have any of this stuff because I had to focus on what was needed for me at that time. All right. So don't let your dreams, don't let them die, but don't let them keep you from the life that you could be living right now. All right. Gillis is here for the dress and heels. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So yeah, Kevin was saying, men see that all the time at the work site. Next level was saying we're out here in the world fighting. And one of the things that you should realize, ladies, is that men often, when they work, especially high value men, they work with very masculine women. If they have a demanding job, the women that they are around at that job are more like dudes than they are like women. And they have to, go toe to toe or head to head with these women. Mr. President calls them barracudas or battle axes. Sometimes he'll just call me and I'll say, "Hey, babe, how's it going?" He's like, "Oh, that's all I needed." Just a reminder that there's a softness out there. And that doesn't cost you anything, but you have to be mindful of it and you have to be willing to give that as well. All right. So don't be like a man if you want a man, because men don't want to marry that and they don't want to, he called it LTR. They don't want to put that in a long-term relationship. I think one of the problems that happens a lot of times to women is men will entertain that temporarily. They may have fun with you, they may take you out or spend money on you, but the whole time they know that this isn't going anywhere and you find yourself, immediately dismissed. So, ask yourself if you're around for a long time or a fun time, right? Aaron Laura says, not the Barracudas. It's true. It's true. Now, Kevin said the worst are the bohemians or the creatives. His words, not mine. I would just say this, ladies, look at the type of job that you have and look at the qualities that make you successful in work. And then ask yourself if that's helping you in your relationship. When I was in a leadership position at work, making decisions, managing budgets, hiring, firing, all of that, I brought that home. And I remember vividly, I'll never forget, my ex-husband was like, "I don't work for you." And I didn't even realize I had become that masculine. All right. So we have to be aware of it. And then it's up to you, once you have that information or once you get that feedback, are you going to say, "Well, that's just me, you're going to have to deal with it"? Or are you going to try and give your man what he wants so that you can get what you want? All right. So again, I'm not going to be crude, but Kevin said that some of these, boss babe or bohemian women can be great in the intimate spaces because of that crazy energy, but they're not traditional and they're not going to be kept around for the long term. Killa says that right there was me, free spirit, bohemian, not outwardly as far as appearance, but my behavior. Yeah, I don't know if it's laugh out loud, but ladies, listen, the women are telling you. So not everything can be fixed. So I really do have a heart for younger women before you go down that path, before it becomes too far gone. Have you gotten any feedback? Has someone told you, "Man, you know what? You're a little bit all over the place," or "You're really not disciplined," or "Man, you like to argue," or, "Man, you kind of look like a dude. I wasn't sure." Men will tell you, and then they'll just stop talking. So I don't want you to get to that point. All right. All right. So we've talked about your career choice. It can impact your relationship options. So let's move on to the business owners. All right. Oh, Kevin has talked about this, and everybody, I think a lot of us have a side hustle. There's nothing wrong with that, but I would just say, ladies, we need to keep that in its particular place. If you have a passion project, if you have, oh, thank you so much, Next Level says, ladies, if you think like a man, there is no way you'll act like a lady. As the scripture says, as a man, woman thinketh, so is he or she. Thank you for the $5. I'm very grateful. But yeah, ladies, I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but it's true. If your training and your, knee-jerk reaction is masculine, you may find yourself, forever single or single for a lot longer than you want to be. Gillis is saying, yeah, it's over here. Young women need to take heed. We all think we will always be young and desirable. And that is so true, ladies. Like I said in the beginning, we do not choose when we are snatched up. And I think this hurts a lot of attractive women more than those of us who are average. Like I said, I'm not a head turner, never have been. Once you get to know me, I can kind of win people over. But when you're used to getting a lot of attention without really working hard, then you think it's always going to be that way. And it's a tragedy to me to see a woman who was beautiful but didn't take advantage of that beauty to lock something down that was real. And then the beauty fades for all of us. And then you just kind of age into, being single. If that's what you want, that's fine. But I really do think, like Kevin said, we're better together. And in our heart of hearts, I think we do want that lasting relationship, right? Dr. Steele is here saying the Proverbs 31 woman had a side hustle. I love that. She was bringing in some income too. And there's nothing wrong with that. I work. The woman that I was coaching right before this, there's nothing wrong with working. I mean, if you're fortunate enough to stay at home and live on one income, absolutely, that's a blessing. But there's nothing wrong with using your talents, your gifts and talents to bring in extra income for you or for the family. But again, I would just say keep it in its proper place. One woman that I was coaching, her husband put her out because she got a promotion at work and started making a little bit more money than she was used to. And before you knew it, her head started getting big and she was thinking, I don't have to listen to him. And now she's clawing her way back into her relationship because her man is trying to decide if he wants to keep her around. It's not worth it, ladies. It's never worth it. You all have seen the statistics now where jobs are being cut. I'm gonna tell you, I had a conversation with Mr. President today, and he's been harping about this AI and these robots. And I always used to think, oh, there he goes again, but it's true. And he said where the next phase is, the AI is coming to only fools. So these women that are turning 18 and making $1 million in 24 hours, it's about to be a computer program that can do whatever the buyer wants, multiple times over. And women that have relied on easy money may find it a lot more difficult, as well as those of us who work traditional jobs. So it's just the way of the world, ladies. Again, choose wisely is what I'll say. Choose wisely. Gillis is saying adjusting and being intentional, like you say, Maggie, is very important. Yeah, I would just say, ladies, make decisions for the life that you want to live when you're my age or later. All of us are going to turn 50, God willing, at some point. I'm thinking, what do I want life to be like when I'm in my 60s? And I'm making those decisions now. Hitched my wagon very young, very early, and now I'm able to enjoy the fruits of that. But it doesn't happen overnight. All right. The Condemned says your man knows his tech, Maggie. It's already taking root and it's not going to be good if it sticks. Yes, ladies, the technology's coming for all of us, and none of this is new. I'm reading some period pieces and I love listening to medieval stories or even the Industrial Revolution. Whenever a new technology or a new something comes, there's going to be a certain, group of the population that gets displaced. But what is constant over time is the relationships that we have, the real relationships, the family units that we create. That's what sustains us when things go up and down. I've been laid off multiple times, and you can land on your feet, but it's really hard to do it alone. All right. So again, like you said, men are not fools, ladies. And, if you think, all your success at work and, all of your smarts and all these accolades that you have, it's just not really impressive to men. I mean, we all know you've been at a party or a holiday gathering and that person who just won't shut up about all the things that they've done. Men may tolerate it until they tire of you, and then, I guess you can start over somewhere else. I want to be helpful. So one of the things I would add, ladies, whatever your career is, we talked about some of the ones that Kevin said are repellent for high value men or men in general. Watch your language, ladies. And I'm not just talking about swearing, which is very masculine. You've heard me say that. If you want to swear like a dude, I guess, good luck with that. But if you have a type of language that is unique to your line of work and nobody else talks that way, just drop it. When you're having a conversation with a man, stop trying to be so impressive and smart. Instead of saying, like corporate speak, I mean, nobody talks about these, projections and, partnership and these goals and, I want a thought partner and all of that. Like, men are simple and they don't talk that way. Again, if you're one of these bohemian types and you want to talk about your astrology and your crystals and all of that, Try to read the room, ladies. And I would say, yes, adjust yourself to your man. Just talk in a way that's normal. There's nothing wrong with what you do, with your people at work, but don't bring that into your relationship. It's just weird. All right. Hello, Imagination is here. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate it. All right. So, Kevin asked the question that's hard, but we have to talk about it. He said, why don't women in other groups have this problem? Why do some of us who become successful in our career path make ourselves radioactive in relationship with the type of men that we want, high value or otherwise? And the long and short of it, ladies, is that women who want relationship have figured out how to do both well, or have chosen early and remove themselves from getting infected with, all of that chaos out in the world. You all have seen me cook with my mom. She's a retired home economics teacher. But both of my parents have PhDs. But you would never know that, looking at Nana. She taught me everything. And to the boys, she's just grandma. To me and my brother, she's just mom. Um, I watched her, of course, do her studies, but then also, take care of the family and serve my father and all of this for years. So that's what you see a lot of times in women in other cultures, or women that are being selected for marriage and long term. They know how to allow the man to lead. If you think that you're going to, we're going to have this two-headed monster, it doesn't work. We got Moon McDaniels here. Thank you so much. I love the logo. Maggie, I'm so glad you're doing this work to encourage femininity. Thank you. Thank you for the $4.99. It's important to me, ladies. I don't have daughters. You all know that I'm a boy mom. And I see myself in a lot of modern women. I've made some of those mistakes. Thank goodness. I did have a traditional upbringing, but, I think college and corporate America had me going down another path. And the divorce really had to humble me. So second time around, I'm like, how can I not make that mistake again? Oh my goodness. $100. Thank you. The condemned is here. So incredibly generous. Thank you so much. Wow. He says, for your continued efforts and contributions to this space, ma'am. Hopefully, the women who intend to set themselves apart in a genuine and sincere manner are paying attention to your guidance and preparing themselves accordingly. Thank you. Oh, I'm just incredibly humbled because, like I said, I remember that conversation I had with Kevin, one-on-one in that consultation, and he was incredibly gracious one-on-one. But, some people are just kind of like, I'm fine. I got mine. You do you. And yes, my relationship and my children come first. You all get the leftovers, as it should be. But I do feel a calling to help at least get the message out there. I'm not here forever, but the internet is forever. And the women that are listening and it's helping, it makes me feel like that drop in the bucket is worth it. All right. Thank you, Gillis. Thank you, NW. Yes, I appreciate it. NW says, my grandmother would work, but she was a wife at home. I couldn't tell she worked until she had to leave. I love that. I absolutely love that. And again, ladies, it's definitely doable. Don't let the modern world have you thinking that, well, I have to be masculine. No, you don't. It's a choice. All of it's a choice. All right. Okay, let's continue on. So the callers started calling in. And the first woman, I think she said she was 23 with a 1-year-old, not married. We have talked about these illegitimate children ad nauseum. I don't know why. I do not know why. I just don't understand it. Okay. And here's the thing, ladies. This woman is now calling in because she wants a high value man. The sad thing for me, and I can't speak for Kevin, but even in the little coaching that I've done, unfortunately, most of the time when women reach out, it's after they've messed up. It's after they had an opportunity and they blew it. It's after a man vetted them, but they didn't take him seriously. They brought that same bad behavior that was tolerated with other men into a man who was really relationship minded. And now you're having to watch him sail off into the sunset and go live his life with somebody else. And you're sitting there thinking it should have been me. And again, ladies, not everything can be fixed. So, she's saying I have some type of boutique. I don't know if she sells hair or whatever she does, but she was another one complaining that she had this 1 year old. So she's out on the dating market and she's complaining about the man that she chose to have a child with. And I think she said he cheated and she's complaining. But Kevin told her, you put yourself in this situation. And I do think it's high time we start telling women not everything is okay. Not everything is excusable. Not everything can be fixed. And that's just the truth. Why would a man who has built himself, who has options, who's worked really hard, who can change your life, take something that is not the best for him? If the tables were turned, or if you had a son or a brother, you would tell him to make the choice that's going to be helpful to him, not hurtful to him. And I know, ladies, trust me, as a mother, we look at our children, well, they're great for us, but that's not going to be the legacy for the next man. So be very, very careful about what you give yourself up for and up to. NW says that was the wake up call. Next Level says, yeah, a lot of us are out here being reactive instead of proactive. And that's true, ladies. That's what I'm hoping to get the message out, just like Kevin did, because like I said, his message still lives on. So this woman is out here and he told her, you've been wasting time and you're not stable. She's got this relationship that has, gone by the wayside. And she's trying to land a relationship, but she's not bringing, her best self, and she's tethered to something else now. So what he told her, unfortunately, is not really what she wanted to hear. He's saying that, look, all your hopes and dreams kind of have gone away. It's time for you to have a plan. Ladies, don't let these celebrities who have multiple nannies and a designer attachment kid on their hip have you thinking that it's going to be some type of walk in the park. It is not. It is a lot of work. Once these kids come, that's pretty much it. Yes, you can have, some fun along the way, but your primary goal and your primary responsibility is to be a mother. Now, if you choose not to do that, none of this applies to you. However, there is going to be a time, and in the Young Mothers Club, I tell them, stay the course, because yes, it's 20 years out of your life, 18 years. But when you look at, let's say, 80 years of life, what is that? A quarter of that is going to be dedicated to prioritizing, your growing family. And then believe me, you'll have time to do all that other stuff. But this is why we tell you to choose wisely and enjoy, those early years before you start a family. Because unfortunately, and I've heard this before, this woman calls in, she's 23 with a 1-year-old, and now she's saying, well, I'm not going to have any more kids unless I'm married. How convenient. It's really, I hate to say it, ladies, and no disrespect, but it's really laughable to tell the next man, oh, you got to marry me. I have seen this. I have heard this with women who have multiple children and did not require marriage before. And now saying, well, you got to marry me. Number one, no, he doesn't. Number two, it's his choice. And number three, we're not the best option. So all I'm saying is, before you put yourself in that situation, show up as the best version of yourself so that you do have some leverage, because men are the ones who establish relationships. They just do. You can't go out in the world and find the man of your dreams and say, we go together now. It doesn't work that way. You got VSA here saying, Amen, Maggie. Absolutely. The kids, I'm telling you, all the way, just got one off the books, but it was a lot up until the very end. So the sad truth is, Kevin told her, as a single mom out here, men prey on women like you. And this is why you want to keep your relationship together and choose wisely. Don't just go into having kids haphazardly with a man that you know has no future for you. And she said, what do you mean men prey on women like me? And to hear him say it, it just kind of gave me chills. But ladies, this is what he said. It's in this video. When a man sees an unwed mother with a child, number one, he knows you're open for intimacy because you've demonstrated that you're willing to do that, your choice. And then they know that maternal instinct in us is going to prioritize the children. So when our kids need us, we're going to be focused on the kids, and our relationship is going to come in like fits and starts, right? So we may be available, we may not. We may have a sick kid. We may not have childcare planned. We're going to have to move things around to be able to have free time. And so for a man who's not really interested in the long term, we can be an easy target because we're distracted. And the distraction is a good thing, but I'm going to tell you, like Mr. President told me, and it hurt when he said it, but he said the things that make you a good mother make you a bad girlfriend. Meaning, dropping everything to make sure, the boys have what they need, which is my responsibility. And he understands that, which is what I do. That means that the man has to take a back seat. So I'll tell you what I do. Like I told you all, if you're coming into a relationship with any strikes, I have children. When I have the opportunity to be my best self for Mr. President, I overperform consistently. I make sure that I present myself the way that he likes. Like I said, most agreeable, most feminine, any feedback that he gives me, never an argument, because I already know there's some things that, for me aren't helpful for the relationship. And I understand why he said he didn't want a blended family. Finish what you start and then we can have our time. Those were his rules and he left it up to me. And I chose to wait on him because I think he's worth waiting for. So again, ladies, men sometimes look at us if you're out here, especially if you're just out here dating casually and you have multiple children for multiple men. I hate to say it, but I don't think anybody's going to take that seriously. They'll have fun with you and then more damage, and then you're trying to be a mom at the same time. It's really, really sad. Aaron Laura agrees. So he told this young woman, don't repeat that mistake. She had one child, 23, 1-year-old, and he told her stay fit because, of course, a grown woman's body will change. But he told her, you're still young, stay fit. This happened. So, he also told her, we look like a bill. I don't understand this where women want a man who's not the child's father. If they're going out on a date, you're bringing food home. Like, I don't understand that. Maybe I'm old, but that's not that man's responsibility. And he told this young woman, when you come into a relationship bringing another man's kids, you look like a bill. Because again, being a good mother, we want to provide, we want to make sure what we have, our kids have. So now there's two of us that this man has to take on. And that's why most men just say, nah, I'm good. I'll find somebody who's untethered. All right. So he was a little hard on her, but he told her being soft is not going to help your situation. You need a plan. And so this is why, ladies, you want to make sure that you choose wisely before you're on the receiving end of this type of feedback. Find a man who loves you and cares for you and wants to marry you and make you his own, and then create a family. Even still, I've been divorced from my ex-husband, but we show up as a family unit, to go send off the boys or parent-teacher conferences. We co-parent really well because when you are a wife, There's just a certain status that comes with that. It just is what it is, ladies, right? Guitar Time says, are you single? Unfortunately, no. Well, fortunately for me, I'm happily spoken for. Thank you. All right. So she starts to say, well, that wasn't my plan. I don't know if she had a plan. Ladies, we can't mess things up and then just think these excuses are going to erase it away. I'm young and dumb. He was a narcissist. All these things that we say so casually just to have hope to have someone have pity on us. It doesn't work that way. You're going to have to be responsible for the choices that you make as an adult, and just saying, well, that wasn't my plan, or I didn't intend to be it that way. Well, we're here now. So, what are we going to do about it? Again, that's why it's important to think before you act. And he told her, well, you chose him of all the men. First of all, you were out here as an unwed mother. And then you have this man that you're complaining about, that you say he cheats and he does all of these things. Why did you think of all the men to have a child for, that would be the best option? Ladies, we've got to be more responsible and stop thinking that just because he does it for me or he gives me that thrill, that's going to make him a good father. Is he even husband material? Are you even being vetted seriously by him? Or are you all just doing what animals do and then, oh, now what do we do? It's not responsible, ladies. We got to do better. All right. So at the end of this talking to, Kevin told her, look, it's going to be hard for you out here. You just need to go back to your man, go back to the father of this child, because it's going to be hard for you to start over with somebody else. And he often gave that advice to women who just decided, you know what, well, I don't want him anymore. I want somebody new. And he said it shouldn't be groundbreaking for me to say that, because a lot of times women would get offended, like, oh, he was so horrible. Well, you chose him. Why is that so far-fetched? And I know sometimes relationships, end, but I heard someone say once, don't marry anyone that you wouldn't want to be divorced from. And I would say this, ladies, I mean, don't have these, illegitimate children, but don't have children for a man that you wouldn't say before the child is here, he would be a great father. And he has said that he wants a family. We were married 6 or 7 years, and I waited. And when my husband at the time said, I think it's time. And I was so excited. But even in marriage, I wanted to make sure, because that's a huge, huge sacrifice. We can't just be doing that carelessly. All right. So that conversation did not end well, because he asked her, how long have you been broken up with this man? And she said, about 1 month. And I quote, Kevin said, get off my phone, with a few expletives sprinkled in. Thank you so much, Aaron Laura. With a few expletives sprinkled in. But basically, Kevin was saying, you're not even serious. You're out here calling my show, trying to figure out how you, of all people, can get a high value man, which it doesn't work that way, ladies. They choose us. All right. We do not choose them. And you're still going back and forth with this man that you say is a cheater and all these bad things. So, ladies, again, we have to really look at our behavior from the outside in. And how can anybody take you seriously? One, you have a 1-year-old and you've been broken up for a month. No man worth his salt, let alone a high value man, is going to bring that chaos into his world. It's too risky. It's just too risky. Excuse me. All right. Let us continue on. He told her, go back to that man, get off my phone. Neither of you should be dating. He's running around. You're going back and forth. It's just chaos. He said, if you don't like the cheating, don't go looking. If you look for trouble, you're going to find it. You picked him. All right, ladies, and made a baby by him. All right, so let's continue on. The next conversation, I don't remember. I think he probably asked this woman, oh, I think this one, he asked her, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate yourself? And if I remember correctly, I think she said, I'm a 10. Oh my goodness. I don't know why we do this. So Kevin was basically saying, I think a lot of women are horrible. I quote, most women are horrible at ranking ourselves and others. I like to say I'm happily average, but here's the thing, ladies. I mean, I don't, you can think whatever you want to think, but because men are very logical, they look at the results that they're getting and that we're getting to then say, okay, she is a fill in the blank. So if a man says, I have it easy with the ladies, that means he can go out and pick up probably whatever woman that he wants. So if we're going to say I'm a 10, where are our 10 results? And I'll say this, ladies, the way Mr. President says it, are you paid for your looks? Meaning, do you make income from your beauty? Most of us don't. Most of us, when we walk into a room, nobody's going to crane their neck to say, my goodness, she is gorgeous. We're just not. That doesn't mean that, you throw the baby out with the bathwater. All you need is one. All you need is your man to think that you're beautiful. You don't have to be a knockout out here. So have some humility. Um, and we need to stop telling each other, girl, you're perfect. You're a 10. You're a queen. We can be a good woman or a good person, but it doesn't mean that we're a perfect 10. There's always room for improvement. Aaron Laura say they always say a 10 in they always say a 10 or a 7. The condemned says how many 10s are in the chat. Don't answer that, ladies, all right? And he says how many ones? Oh, 10s are in the chat. Let me give you all a little story time. I had a conversation with Mr. President. He is a 1% man. And he said something, again, that just hurt me to my heart. I'm always flying close to the sun and I get burned, and I come here to tell y'all about it. There's somebody, a woman, very dear to me that I admire. And she had indicated that she would like to be set up with somebody. And I was all excited. So here I go to Mr. President. And I was like, what do you think of this person? Do you know anybody that would be good for this person? She's single and she's interested. I usually don't do this. So this really says how highly I think of this woman, because I know better than to bring any rigmarole around him or even bring it up. And he let me get my excitedness out. And then, like he does, folds his arms and he's like, I don't know anything that you said that makes her a good woman. A good woman to who? And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you said that. And he said, she's a good worker. She's a good person. She's a good boss. She's a good leader. But is she a good woman? And I was like, oh man, that hurt. Meaning, ladies, the yin and the yang, the polarity, the masculine and the feminine, we go together in a way that is not equal but equally valued. So if I'm going to say I'm a good woman, or if I'm going to say this is a good woman, it has to be in usefulness and in service to a man. Get upset if you want to. But if I said I'm a good mother, it has to be in usefulness and service to a child or my children. I can't just say I'm a good mother and there's no product, um, there's no, what's the word, evidence of that. So I got the two confused because I like this woman and I think she's great. She's a great person. But he asked me, what has she done that makes her a good woman? And I was like, oh, yeah, I think I'm going to have to go back and rethink this one. So, ladies, again, this is how men think. You can be as accomplished as you want to be in your world. Does that make you a good woman to the type of man that you want? And the high value men are extremely discerning because they don't want anybody that's great out there. They want somebody that's great right here at home with them. And if that offends you, you can be by yourself. You can do your own thing. I'm just telling you what the man said. All right. Aaron Laura says, right. Average isn't bad. Average is most of us. I am happily average. And I think, my happiness comes from having adequate expectations. Um, I was raised to appreciate marriage and family, so I married young. I've been in two relationships. I've been in a relationship since I was 18, married for 10 years, and then since in a long term. And I don't expect anything to be given to me, so I work really hard. And now I'm able to reap the fruits of that labor. But it's a lot of work, ladies, so I say start early if that's what you want. All right? Dr. Steele says, and sometimes the pandering can be dangerous to the person being pandered to. Absolutely. That's why I said I feel for a lot of these beautiful women, it doesn't age well. It does not age well if you don't choose wisely. All right. Mr. President gave me the side eye. He flat out told me, he was like, nothing you said makes her a good woman. And I was like, y'all, I was so hurt. I was so hurt. I know. I'm telling y'all. I'm telling you. Oh, man. Exactly. And this is me. And I thought I got a good one. I got a really good one. She's great. Let me tell you how great she is. She was great to me. I know. He said, good for who? That's the question. He's cold as ice, y'all, but I love him. But that's how men think. So, again, go for the high value man if you want to. You're going to be deaf, dumb, and mute like I am a lot of the times. Dr. Steele says, I wonder, does she understand what a good woman is? And that's a great point. A lot of times, ladies, we just want a certain caliber of man because we want it, with no thought of what does he need from me? What does he expect from me? What does he require of me? Because believe me, you're not just going to be a decoration. You better be useful every day, all day. And if you have built your usefulness being great out there for other people, leading a team, managing budgets, working the bottom line, arguing in the courtroom, standing on your feet and shampooing heads for 12 hours a day or whatever that you do, that's great. But you're going to spend all that time and energy, and then the man is going to be like, what does that do for me? All right. Dr. Steele says, I will admit there are some men who do not understand what good women are. The thirstiest of men seem to think a woman with a banging body is a good woman. With respect, I don't feel like I have a place to talk to men, but your point is well taken. And I will just say this, all of us, life humbles all of us. And oftentimes, the men who become dragons later in life got caught up in thinking, that beautiful body was going to be a beautiful woman inside and out. And unfortunately for a lot of men, sometimes they learn the hard way and then they say, you know what, never again. And then they may end up with somebody like me who's happy to be here. But here's the key, ladies. Men have the benefit of time. We don't. Men can chase the hot girls and the fast cars all through their 20s and maybe even their 30s and then say, you know what, at 40, I'm ready to settle down and go choose the best one for him, have all those memories and experiences in the past, and then blaze a trail forward. I would argue if as a woman you chase the bad boys and all the fun and like to party and hot girl summer turns into hot girl decade times 2, ask yourself if your options will be the same when you're 40. I don't think they will be. All right, so we've talked about ranking ourselves, ladies. And so Kevin asked this woman who wanted a man of a certain caliber and a certain salary, I forget what it was, what percent of men make that type of income? And she said, I think 15%. He said, try 3. We've talked about this a lot before. Most men, the salt of the earth men, make an honest living, an average living. They're able to take care of themselves. And the sad thing is, Mr. President told me, Back in the past, the trucker could get a wife and a family. The electrician could get a wife and a family. The door-to-door salesman could get a wife and a family. The military man could get a wife and a family. Something has happened where now we women look at those hardworking men and think they're useless to us. We want that 1%. We want that high value man. Well, the numbers are against us. Everybody's not going to get one. So then what, ladies? And unfortunately, if you stepped over good men on your way towards wherever you thought you were going, when you come back down and say, okay, now I'm ready to take you seriously, unfortunately for us, that ship has often sailed. I'm where I'm at because early and often I hitched my wagon a long time ago. All right. Noah says there's a difference between men and adult males. Absolutely. All right. So Kevin was saying that a lot of times we are woefully out of touch with what is real and what is available to us. And I would just ask you, ladies, we all may have a princess fantasy. There's nothing wrong with that. But look at your family of origin, look at your upbringing, and choose the best from what's available to you. Trying to go, into another way of life that you don't really know, trying to insert yourself or pretend to be something that you're not, I think it just wastes time. And if you think those people don't know, they know. And they may entertain it, but again, we won't be taken seriously for the long term. All right. So the next woman, this woman that he was talking to, she had a little bit of an attitude, if you ask me, because she said, all right, well, if I'm not supposed to lead with my education, then what? Gotta love that, right? Pardon me. Erin Laura says, it's baffling to me that so many women think that many men that make that much money, if high value men were common, they'd be average value men. That is so true. They're high value because they're exclusive. Kevin said they are rare air. And again, the women that are with these type of men are off living their life. Look, I told y'all, I'm here until I'm not. But we can't look at, that social media experience or, lifestyles of the rich and famous, or you've been flued out or put on a yacht one time in a row and you think this is my new standard. It's not. It's better to start early and grow together. Gillis is agreeing. Absolutely. All right. So she's asking him, okay, if I'm not supposed to lead with my education, then what? And that question just, it saddens me. If she's being genuine, I don't know, maybe she was just being argumentative, but ladies, we have to realize that we have been raised to perform in a way that benefits others and not us. It is no accident that other people want to take the best and brightest of us in our prime years and use that energy and use that talent and use that to benefit their family, their business, their dreams, their passion projects, their political platform, whatever it is. So I give a little bit of grace because if you didn't have a family that reinforced the value of family, you really think your accomplishments are going to be as important to a man. They're not. They could be great for you, and he'll be like, yeah, that's great. But over the long term, my experience has been even the women with the big jobs and the big degrees, life happens to all of us. We will start to slow down. Our body will start to break down. I believe we can age gracefully, but even me, I have a lot of energy, but yeah, believe it or not, slower than I was when I was, 29. Now I'm 49. So all I'm saying is this: when we hitch our wagon to that big job and that big degree, eventually we too will tire of it. And men know that. It's almost like they know and we're surprised by it. One day we're like, man, I hate it here. I hate this job. I hate these people. I hate these deadlines. I hate this commute. And so that's fine. Everything has a reason and a time and a season for it. But when you're tired of hitting the bricks, what else have you built that's going to last long after that big job and that big degree? And sad to say, a lot of women haven't been able to prioritize both. So when they're no longer the shining star or the star pupil or the protege or the upwardly mobile or the promotions have slowed down or the business has slowed down or there's a new technology that has taken over what you do and you find yourself outsourced and made redundant, then a lot of women are looking left and right and now their hair is on fire and they're like, okay, I want a man, I want a real relationship. And unfortunately for a lot of them, it's too late. All right, so he told her, and ladies, if you don't know, I think we do know, men want femininity. Men appreciate beauty. We talked about this, you don't have to be a knockout, but are you helping yourself with how you present yourself? Do you show up as a lady, as a woman, or is it hard to tell you from other things? Do you make yourself as pretty as possible for you? Men like that. They like to have something nice to look at. That's just how they are, especially at home. Don't get lazy. Don't get sloppy. Make sure you take care of yourself and your grooming. Um, Mr. President told me, you know, he don't want to have any experience with any other woman um, that outshines me. Meaning, nobody needs to respect him more than me. Nobody needs to take care of him more than me. Nobody needs to be as presentable more than me. That those are his expectations. So just know that the things that attract us to the men that we want attract other women too. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I enjoy showing up as my best. If you let it slip, there'll be somebody else that'll be happy to take that problem off of your hands. All right. So this woman was basically saying, oh, I used to work out. I used to do this. And he's like, used to doesn't count. You need to be doing it already. And I 100% agree with this. Ladies, whether you're in a relationship, want to be in a relationship, or single, or whatever your relationship status is, if you want to have something serious with a man, he needs to see you already being that type of woman. All right. Kevin said this in this video. A lot of women say, okay, I'm going to do the work after I find that prospect. And to me, that's disrespectful because it's disingenuous. That's not really who you are. You wait until you're like, okay, now that's the man for me. All right, tell me, what do I need to do? I'm ready now. And unfortunately for us, because men are always watching and observing and waiting for consistency, by the time you see him and you start to sit up straight and get everything together, and now you're going to, wash your face and put a comb in your hair and, whatever. He's like, all right, yeah. So when she gets comfortable, she's just going to slack off again. All right. NW says it's fake. Unfortunately, ladies, that's what men think. Lovely lady says, I'm so thankful for the wisdom you and Mrs. Lucy share. My boyfriend recently told me he enjoys my company, and it made me realize how much I've grown through your live streams. I'm grateful. Thank you for saying that, sweetheart. I'm grateful. I'm glad that it's helpful. I'm really glad that it's helpful. And ladies, that's a huge compliment. Men like to spend time alone with their thoughts. So when they have a woman that they can just be with, enjoy those quiet moments, those silent moments. You all see me cooking all the time. I set the table and just let him enjoy a meal in peace or work in peace or whatever. When he comes up for air, he'll come looking for you. All right. The Condemned says a woman who's a 4 in the face can become a 6 with the proper personality. Absolutely. Because, ladies, the beauty, it will fade, and there's nothing wrong with that. All of us are going to age, right? Next level says number one means exactly that. Be first, ladies, right? Absolutely. All right. So it's not okay to try and hurry up and scramble after we have found the man. If you were not already doing the work when he comes across you, it's too late. It's just really too late because the rest of the relationship, he's going to be trying to figure out, okay, who is the real Maggie here? Who is the real, fill in the blank here? All right. So Kevin said in this episode, we need to do it because it's the right thing to do, whatever that it is. So again, ladies, if you know that the type of men that you want are not going to put up with the attitude, are not going to put up with you being sloppy, having bad hygiene, running around with, suspect people, spending money, having bad habits. If you know that, stop it now. If you want to be taken seriously or not, it's up to you. Y'all know, like I always say, nobody's going to fight you. So this woman is saying, well, that's not fair. I'm thinking of Mr. President. Simple Southern man. He said, fair is a place where they judge pigs. Y'all, as grown women, we need to take fair. Kevin said, we need to take fair out of our vocabulary. The world doesn't owe you anything. Back to the title. Yes, Godfather, we deserve high value men. No, we don't. I don't deserve what I have. I am so grateful for what I have. And that's why I work hard every single day to show my appreciation. We don't deserve any of it because we woke up like this. There's somebody who would be willing to do everything you do and more, and they don't have it. So I always say, ladies, if you have a good man, you better act like it. I think it's going to get better, but unfortunately, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Mr. President will tell you some people just got to die. And I'm like, oh my God, do you have to be that apocalyptic? Meaning, there are some people who their fates are sealed. They've made their choices and there's really no way out. So there's going to be a swath of people who just expire, and the rest of us can step up and decide what we want for our lives. So, again, stop thinking that it's going to automatically happen or it's in your vision board or astrology or bingo card. Men don't take any of that seriously, ladies. All right. So it's not about fair. It's about what you do consistently to earn it. Kevin said we choose what we want and we choose the consequences. So again, that's that accountability. Men deal with this. They know they can't just float through life and do and say whatever they want and then just wish upon a star and make it all go away. It doesn't work that way. So again, ladies, if you decide to hitch your wagon to a man that you don't admire, respect, and then have a baby for him, that is what you're going to have to deal with and explain over and over and over again. Right? Gillis is laughing. OMG, Mr. President is hilarious. That's one word for it, y'all. He's always telling me about myself. You're laughing? Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. It's funny. All I can do is laugh and just say, well, I'll come back another day when I get my thoughts together. All right. He said, I think this woman said, she wanted to be some type of boss babe and also be in a relationship so she can have the best of both worlds. And this is what I would say, ladies. This is what I tell the ladies that I coach. You may be able to do it all. You won't be able to do it all at the same time. Life comes in stages for all of us. And because we are women, if you want family, the family is going to have to come first. But here's the good news. Here's what I tell my young women, especially that are so gung-ho and really excited and have all of these ideas. Everything that I'm passionate about now, of course, have become a little bit seasoned with life experience, but all of the things that I love to do, travel, the arts, the cooking, all of that stuff, it's just part of who you are. That's always going to be there. So you're going to have a time if you wanted to finish that degree or get that license or travel or whatever you want to do, that will be there. And if you take care of yourself and you have your health, you'll be able to have like a next act. I still feel like I have a lot of life to live, but I know my primary responsibility is to get the boys up and out, and then it'll be my turn. So You're not going to be able to have the best of both worlds at the same time. That doesn't happen for anybody. Everybody has to choose. And here's the thing, ladies, you may not have thought about, even for men. I know a lot of times, especially professional women, this is another thing Mr. President said. Y'all women think it's like some type of happy boys club and we just love it and we're like slapping each other's backs and smoking cigars and just having a good old time. He was like, most of the time we hate it. We think our boss is an idiot. We hate the stupid people that we work with. We hate, like all the stuff they have to do, whether it's a backbreaking job or you have somebody that's in an executive role or whatever. A lot of times when they come home, they have had it with the world, but then they live to fight another day. Why? Because usually they have a wife and a family and a support system that encourages them and gives them a reason to go slay the dragons again. So we need to stop thinking that they're loving it every single day. A lot of times they're doing what they have to do and they're not complaining, because when we light up and we show gratitude and we appreciate them and we love on them, it gives them a reason to continue on. But please believe they are sacrificing the life that they want, the car that they want, the house that they want, the trips that they want. All of that gets put on the back burner until they get older, and then we tell them that they're having a midlife crisis. But I'm going to tell you, Mr. President said all of us wish we could just have that bachelor Leo life. But we know that if we do that, we won't have anybody who really loves us for us, and we won't have a family. So we choose to put all that stuff behind and focus on the family. All right. So, ladies, nobody's getting the best of both worlds. All right. Let's see here. Oh, next level says women jump through hoops. Uh-oh. Women jump through hoops. Let me see if I can get it up. Third time. Women jump through hoops and walk on glass for a $40,000 job, but won't cook and clean for a 10% man. How does that work? OMG. That is so true. All these women who say, I'm a boss or I have my own business, you don't have to tell me, but if you look at our salaries, the numbers are the numbers. If you look at what you're actually taking home after having a business, a lot of entrepreneurs are struggling to stay afloat, but we will fight you for, this title, this CEO, this job, this $40,000 or $60,000 middle management job for someone who calls you and asks you to, come in early, leave late, do extra work, all this stuff, and you'll be Johnny on the spot. Yes, sir. What can I do? And then you have a man who could change your life. You give him an attitude when he asks for a meal and a peaceful home. Your choice. I've made mine. All right. Oh, let's continue on. Y'all are laughing. Yeah, he's incredible. I learned so much. I learned a lot. All right. The condemned is absolutely agreeing with that. Thank you all so much. Selling candles. And again, ladies, there's nothing wrong with it. You all know I have a fragrance business. There's nothing wrong with the passion projects that we have. Like I said in the beginning, keep them in their proper place. Don't let one good sales period or one good promotion or one good windfall get your head all big and thinking, I can do that all by myself. You might just find yourself by yourself. All right. So choose what you want and the consequences that come with that. You won't get the best of both worlds at the same time. You may have to delay some things, but talk to your husband, talk to your man about, one day I'd like to travel the world. One day I'd like to do this. And, I think there's a joy in working together and having some delayed gratification. You will appreciate it more when it costs you something. So he asked her about her career. Maybe this is another caller, and she said she worked in HR. Like Next Level just said, here we are going crazy for these $40,000 um, middle management jobs that are going to be replaced by HR. Replaced by AI. I was talking to Mr. President today. Did y'all know this? That now these initial Zoom interviews, if you're at a certain level, sometimes you may go through multiple rounds of interviews before you get the job. Usually there's the phone screen and then the Zoom. They are training AI to be on the other end of that screen. So it looks like a recruiter. Y'all have seen these AI videos where it's kind of hard to tell if it's a real person. They're training them to ask the questions. Okay, great. Tell me a little bit more about, this technology, or tell me a little bit about your experience with this. And these AI bots are having conversations with the candidate and basically doing the initial screen before passing on the candidates that should make it to the next level. So I'm just thinking about that. This woman works in HR. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but that's just how it is. So again, be careful when you think that $40,000 job is going to be your rescuer, because believe me, these organizations and these bosses are going to do what's best for them. Erin Lara says, wow, I'm telling y'all, it's coming. It's coming for all of us, even me in tech. That's why I'm glad I'm on the decline. But, it's not the end of the world, but just keep everything in their proper place, because as soon as you can be insignificant, you will be replaced. And, like Mr. President said, we can't get mad at it. That's how business is. It's dog eat dog. But you won't be replaced easily by your husband and your family. All right. So she's working in HR. She says she also wants a career in politics and all these things. She was just chaotic. She was just all over the place. And he was listening to her and he was like, how many town mayors or whatever do you know that are single? And he's just asking her questions. And ladies, we can get upset about it, but we can't just be saying stuff. Men are going to take what we say and ask us questions to see if we've really thought this through. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, we haven't. We're just saying something that, sounds like a good idea, but we haven't really thought it through. He asked her, about being drafted and the select service and, all of her opinions. And she was just kind of drawing a blank. But, ladies, for men, the world becomes real really quickly. It breaks my heart as a boy mom, but men know that their lives are temporary, their lives are expendable. We have no problem stepping over a homeless man on the street. Doesn't matter what his sad story is. On to the next one, pull yourself together. So that is the reality for men in the world that we live in. So they're not just going to allow us to be in this fanciful world, because it's not real. It's not real. Next level says submission. The man you want isn't taught in college. Or probably submission to the man that you want isn't taught in college for a reason. Yeah, and it's true, ladies, the whole system, and I'm part of the system, but you have to keep it in its proper place. The whole system has raised us to keep the system going, to make us consumers, to make us good workers. And there's nothing wrong with that. I work and I buy things too. But nobody out there is going to be teaching you how to keep your own family system going. You have to be intentional about that. You have to say, you know what? I'm not going to be able to take this position, or I'm not going to be able to do this extra assignment, or I'm not going to be able to, move across the country, because family is first. I have turned down positions. I was going for a promotion that was going to put me at a director level. And I remember it came down to me and one other person, and they went with the other person because they had more international experience. And I was so heartbroken. And Mr. President was like, thank God you didn't get it. I was like, oh my gosh, really? He was like, you really want to go back into all of that? You're just so stressed out. You were so stressed out all the time. His words, I like you better this way. So I got some feedback and I had a decision to make. Did I want to say, well, I don't care, I'm going to use this MBA? Or did I say, wait a minute, he likes me better this way. Let me do more of that. So I stepped back and I work in a way now that, of course, makes income, but it's not the end all and be all. My decision, you will make yours. All right. So he's asking her questions. She's dodging the questions. She's just changing the subject, talking about whatever she wants to talk about. And then he asked her, he was like, okay, she said, I'm working on that. I'm working on the man. I think when he asked her about, being a politician and being single, he said, okay, well, if all of this is falling into place for you, why don't you have any prospects? Why don't you have anybody taking you seriously? And I don't remember her exact answer, but he said, y'all see how they just so casually lie? She was just all over the place. Ladies, we have to be honest and not just flippant. If you really look at your life and you want a relationship and there's no relationship in sight, and the last one has been years ago, you got to ask yourself, look, what's really going on here? Am I showing up in a way that makes me a serious candidate for a relationship? Or am I doing something to repel anybody that would actually take me seriously? Because we're going to get the outcomes that correlate with what what we've been doing. So she admitted she had been in relationships. In her words, she said, "Yeah, I stopped them after a year." So one of these women, runaway bride or whatever, there's some women that they're going to blow it up. They're going to blow up the spot. They're just going to do that thing that gets them to start over right again. And I never understood that, but I think, and I'll say it, not everybody is going to win. Not everybody should win. Not everybody is relationship material. And ladies, if you find yourself continuing the same behavior, Kevin was a big advocate for therapy, but if you find yourself having these same explosive breakups, or every time things start to be getting serious and pretty mundane and you think it's boring and you want to, light a fire and watch it burn, because that gives you a thrill. You got to ask yourself, am I really cut out for a relationship? Am I really cut out for stability? Am I really cut out for um, the type of monotonous um, life that, in my opinion, becomes a comfort to us as we age? But not everybody can handle it. NW, it is self sabotage. And unfortunately, ladies, men aren't going to try and fix you and love you into acting right or whatever. They're going to let you figure it out for yourself. Nobody has time for that. So if you want something real and you have a pattern of bad behavior, only you can fix it. And only you should fix it. It's nobody else's responsibility. So he told her, ma'am, you have an average life. You do not need to be asking for a high value man. Your track record does not show anything exceptional. As a matter of fact, self sabotage is more of what we see. And she said, I'm still working on him. Again, very masculine, very much thinking it's going to happen when she wants it on her timeline. How's that working out for you? So she said that she was a 10, a perfect 10. I can't imagine how with all that chaos. And he asked her, so where are the 10 outcomes? And I'm going to tell y'all another thing. Mr. President said, be very careful bragging about your accomplishments, ladies. Mr. President said this, don't tell me about that college degree, because I'm going to expect college degree decision making in everything that you do. Meaning, ladies, if you can't wait to tell somebody that you're a project manager or a boss babe or you got this degree or whatever, but your home is a mess, your car is, hasn't been serviced or whatever, you're terrible with money, you're not an honest and trustworthy person, you have hurt yourself and your prospects by talking about, oh, but I excelled at this one thing one time at band camp. So it would be much better for you to demonstrate good qualities that are useful and then let somebody find out later, oh yeah, she's got a degree in such and such. But be very careful talking about that thing that you do over there if it doesn't show up in any other area of your life. And W says stubborn and in denial. The condemned says, I became most frustrated in my youth as I was trying to help a woman heal who didn't want to. I learned my lesson. And that's true. That's true, ladies. It's for you to fix it. And, you may get upset and say, well, a real man, or he should understand, or fight for the relationship, or whatever. We've already established that men fight tooth and nail out there. They don't want to have to come home and fight with you. And the men that we want aren't going to. They're going to leave you right there to figure it out. And then you'll be wondering whatever happened to so and so. All right. So Kevin said, if you can't show the outcomes, like if you're saying I'm a 10 and I'm great, but your outcomes say otherwise, and you're the one that needs to adjust. And she was starting to complain about men again. And he said this, I love this clip. Men don't leave women that are good. And here's the thing, like the condemned is saying here, the men that we want have been through it with women. It usually takes life to kind of kick men in the teeth. And that's why once they become resolute, they're not playing with you. Your Laura agrees. They are not playing with you. Like my man, I'm going to tell you, Mr. President told me, I'm going to tell you one time in a row and let you figure it out. Oh my gosh. But when a man finds a good woman, the truth is, ladies, we're usually the ones that mess it up and leave, or say he's controlling, or I want to go experience. I didn't have time to live. Look at this celebrity that's out here trying to figure out what life looks like, all the fun she could have on the other side of divorce. You can't tell me that she's happy, but she made her choices, all right? So usually when men find good women, they move quickly to lock it down. And I've had to tell young women this too. Sometimes it can be pretty startling. Oh my gosh, he's moving too fast. He has gotten his life to the point where he's ready. You need to be ready when he is, or he'll just find somebody that is. All right? The president brought it up on the second date. This is what I'm going to do for you. This is my timeline. This is what I require. Do you accept? It's like, this isn't romantic. The romance will come. All the good stuff will come after they know that you're serious. Okay, ladies? So she's going around and around. She's asking him, well, I'm coming to you. I want you to help me find somebody. He said, I'm not a matchmaker. I'm not a matchmaker. Ladies, nobody's going to do it for you. And nobody should do it for you. All right? And believe me, the women that are happy in their relationships are not going to stop pouring into their own love and family to come sort you out. I tried one time with somebody that I really admire, and Mr. President says she's a good woman to who? I was like, man. All right. So I think the last woman that called, he was asking her, what is the problem with the relationship? And she said that women, or maybe herself, have a problem being vulnerable. And he said, do you think you're risking more than men? And I think this is a great point, ladies. I don't think we give men, like Kevin said, the full human experience. We don't realize that they have fears too. They probably had their heart broken. Somebody did them wrong, stole money, lied. Who knows, right? So you're not the only one that's taking a risk here. The men are taking a huge risk because they have a lot to lose. A lot of times it's their livelihood. So she was talking about how she was scared about being in a relationship. He said, is that scarier than being alone? And I'm going to tell you, ladies, as we age, I think about it now, as life happens to all of us, and, the boys are going up and out. I think about, my goodness, like if I didn't have a real love and a real relationship, and then you're out here at this point in life, looking at strangers, trying to figure out, is this person going to do right by me, or do they have bad intentions? To me, that's scarier than really giving your best effort to a good man. Choose wisely and give him your best, all right? He said, nobody wants to be hurt, all right? Ladies, we're not alone in this relationship thing. Men pay the price oftentimes, and they pay a dear price when it goes wrong, and that makes me very sad. So I think the last woman that I had that called in, she said that she was horrible to her man for 20 years and finally apologized. She's lucky he stayed around. But men have feelings too. And if you have a good one, appreciate that and respect him. All right? Because we don't want to die alone. He said, make the right choice or the choice will be made for you. Life happens to all of us, ladies. We're not going to get away with it. Not forever. You may fly close to the sun, but fly too close and you will get burned. Kevin was talking about the tortoise and the hare. I don't know if you all know some of these old um, fables that we grew up on, but especially if you have that head start in life with your beauty or your figure, anything that you're, blessed with, it's just a gift. You didn't do anything to deserve it. Make sure you take advantage of it wisely. Your youth is something that is fleeting, and you can be the hare, the bunny rabbit that, gets a head start bouncing ahead. But if you get distracted, if you waste your time, if you choose incorrectly, if you saddle yourself with a child out of wedlock, there will be a turtle coming around slowly, staying focused, eyes on the prize, that before you know it will come out of nowhere and will end up with what you think you deserve because you weren't focused and you didn't use your advantage to your benefit. It actually was a curse for you more than a blessing. All right. So we don't have this eternal youth. All of us are going to have um, life happen to us, whether it's physical ailments or whatever. Hopefully, you're able to age gracefully. But, Kevin said in our culture, we have this like youth culture where we don't really think about, Aaron Laura agrees, we don't really think about the 40, 50, and 60-year-old version of us. And believe me, that's still young. Next level says slow and steady wins the race. I agree. I remember being young and thinking, oh my gosh, 50 was so old, and now I'll be 50 at the end of this year. But you can still really enjoy your life, I think, if you choose wisely and you put in the work early. So that's um, hopefully helpful for those of you who actually want relationship. Or, like Kevin said, we will continue to work for our abusive boyfriend. And he called the abusive boyfriend our jobs. So you're going to be working for somebody. Like Mr. President said, you're going to be listening to somebody. Some man won't tell you what to do. Maybe your boss, maybe, the government, a pastor. Somebody's going to tell you what to do. And you're going to be falling in line for somebody. So why not your husband that loves you and provides for you and cares for you? So much so that he would sacrifice and give his life for you if it was required. Hopefully it never is. All right. So this one was a little bit of a long one, but I wanted to give my thoughts. Again, the episode is Yes, Godfather, we deserve high value men. So hopefully, ladies, we realize that we don't deserve anything. We're going to have to work for everything that we have. But I promise you, when you put in the work, especially when you put in the work early and you're able to reap the benefits of it, it's so much sweeter when you've earned it. All right. So thank you so much. Let's see here. A few more comments and then we're gonna wrap it up. Next level says you gonna listen to somebody. Next level says Maggie slow cook tonight. Aw, thank you. Yeah, I'm not a simmer anymore. I'm more of a slow cooker. Y'all are so cute. Thank you so much. I'm glad this was helpful. Aaron Laura said this was a great stream. Yes, absolutely. Thank you all so much. And thank you um, to all of those who contributed. Thank you so much for the $5 next level. I appreciate you so much. I'll make sure we get that wrench on there. Thank you, Moon McDaniels, for the $4.99. I appreciate that so much. And I'm glad the Femininity is coming through. But our stream sponsor, if you all would put TCM on the chat on your way out for the $100. Incredibly grateful. Incredibly grateful for your generosity. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you for the correction and redirection. I'm glad it's helpful. Yes, absolutely. So I will be back. The Kevin Samuels channel makes new content. It's usually the first Friday of every month, and then I'll take my time. Old lady, I just got a lot of good family things happening right now. I'm a mom first, so just take my time and give you all my perspective. So my other content, I make food and femininity content. I'm Maggie, the substitute teacher, on all the platforms. So I'll be cooking tomorrow, Friday, and then Lucy and I will be back for our final reaction content. We're going to pivot after Saturday. So you all can find a couple more live streams coming up. All right, everybody. So thank you, everybody. Norman, thank you, Beak, thank you, Erin, Laura, thank you, Next Level. Yes, thank you to our stream sponsor, Killis, and everyone. All right, I will see you all so much. And yes, Erin Laura says, like the live stream on your way out. If you want to give it a thumbs up, I appreciate it. All right, everybody. So with that, I will say good night.